student comprehension, the different types of instructors, growing your instructional ability, levels of learning, and a bunch more. Let's hit up here on the ladder of competence. Stay right there. It's going to be a great shot right on the whiteboard. All right, so ladder of competence, okay? You've probably, if you've been to a fundamentals of instruction course before, you've probably heard of rote memorization, correlation, the different levels of learning. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to these 4 steps. You may or may not have heard of this before. Step 1 is what it looks like, and I'm going to explain it here in just a second. It's abbreviated UI, unconscious incompetence. Step 2 would be conscious incompetence. Step 3 would be conscious competence, and step 4 would be unconscious competence. Now, here's what this basically means. Step 1, you don't know what you don't know. To put it simply, have any of you ever driven a train? I've never driven a train. Okay? Now, what is a train, man? So let me tell you, man, if I rolled up to Amtrak down the street, and then they're like, okay, here, drive the train, I'd probably sit down in there, and I'd be like, okay, like, how do I start this thing? Do I need clearance to move this thing? Like, is there some train control tower that I don't even know about that I have to call? I don't even know. I don't know where to begin, right? And so your students oftentimes will find themselves here, particularly if they have no background. If they have background, then of course they've been around the neighborhood a few times, they've seen this rodeo before, right? But for a lot of students that haven't, particularly in today's industry, that we're seeing a lot of these new students, they're going to roll up in your class, they're probably going to be given a set of manuals, a lot more than 1 page long, and they're going to be like, here's your book, probably a, what's this thing called? It's probably a electronic flight bag. They issue you an iPad or whatever. Here, it's got all your FCOMs and everything on it, and then what they're going to feel like is, good luck, we're all counting on you. There's all your manuals right there, right? Now the thing is, they don't even know what they don't know right now.
Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know, okay? Now, the second step to the ladder is conscious incompetence. Now they are incompetent, but they're conscious about it. I now know what I don't know. We can elevate somebody to the second step immediately just by giving them a few points of data in the ground school, okay? For example, hey, you have an upcoming oral, okay? The oral exam is going to cover 3 things. Memory items. This is if it's an FAA oral, okay? Limitations, lights and switches. The memory items are found in the Boeing, in the QRH, everything above the dash line, right? The limitations are found in FCOM Volume 1, and the lights and switches are found in FCOM Volume 2. So I've taken this student that's here on level 1, and they're immediately elevated to level 2. Why? Because they now know what they need to know, and the fact that they don't know it. But they not only know that they need to know it, they also know where to find it. So we're already on the right track. The third step is conscious competence. Now this means they are competent, assuming they're 100% consciously focused on the task. Okay? In other words, I can do your flows, I can do your callouts. I know exactly when to put what switch where, assuming I'm 100% focused on it. Okay? But I have to be consciously focused on it. The fourth and final step is unconscious competence, which is what it sounds like. You're competent unconsciously. Now to put this in very simple terms, let's go back to conscious competence. Here's what conscious competence means. You're 6 years old. You're learning to tie your shoe. Okay, you're tying your shoe, mom comes up to you, hey, Shannon, what do you want for lunch? And you're like, I can't talk to you because I'm busy doing my bunny ears. Okay, they're slip-ons, by the way. I'll take the hot dog. Okay, so basically what I'm getting to is I can't talk to you, right, and tie my shoe at the same time, right? And the way this translates in the world of training and in the world of flying is, let's say, very simply, you roll up to the plane, it's your first day on OE, show up, they're going to do their preliminary setup, great, they're going to do their FO flow, top to bottom, left to right. Here comes the flight attendant, comes in, hey, we have a coffee pot that works in the back. Okay, flight's canceled. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so, hey, we have X, Y, and Z that's going on. Let's turn this off. Number 1 thing, no distraction. Okay, so they get distracted. That's a distraction. The FO gets distracted, and the problem is now the FO, or the person that's only operating on this level of conscious competence, they cannot have a task be performed and get bothered with any other thing. And what's funny is if you fast forward, say 5 years down the line and you find that FO, who's maybe still there as an FO, they're not even 5 years, 500 hours in type. They're gonna roll up and sit in the plane, they're gonna do the flows, and they're gonna talk to you about what's for dinner. Because now they have enough experience, right, repetition, that they are competent in their flows, completely unconscious. Now, here's the big takeaway now. I just literally said it. How do I go up this ladder? From conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence. There's really only one way up the ladder, all right? And the answer to that, let's clean this up a little bit. The answer on how to elevate up this ladder is reps, repetition. Now, maybe you were waiting for another answer. It's reps and experience. Here's the thing. Repetition in a training environment will only exist in an environment that facilitates engagement and fosters engagement. And the way that I get a high level of engagement out of a student is to make sure that they feel like they are in a safe space to fail. This is the piece not to miss right here. I need the student to feel like they are in a safe space to fail. In other words, you will not be reprimanded. Okay? Can you show me your before taxi flow? They do it, they stumble through it maybe. Okay? I am not, particularly in the initial parts of training, I'm not going to say, how come you don't know this? How come you don't know that? They're getting reprimanded. And the problem with that is they now realize that if they are incorrect, they will get a negative response from me. And the problem is if I give them a negative response, which they don't want, their way to no longer get negative responses from me is to just minimize their engagement. When I ask them a question, they won't answer. They won't want to engage. And the problem is if you don't engage, you don't do reps. And if you don't do reps, you're never going up this ladder. It's not going to happen. So the training footprint, because usually when I tell this to people, particularly the older crowd, at this point, they start to say, I'm looking for my spray, but anyways, probably in another class. They say, hey man, oh, it's behind the camera. What's up, YouTube? Okay, it's behind the camera. So here's the deal. If I tell this, and I have, right, in a class before, right, and it's like, hey man, but they do need to perform at the end of the day. They do need to perform. How is it that, you know, you can have them feel like they're in a safe space to fail and they're not even performing though? Okay, here's the thing. This is type rating training. This is day 1, day 2, day 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth until they get to however long the footprint is. Here our initial is 17 days of training. On the 17th day, you're going to take your check ride. Okay. On day 1, this is my tolerance, by the way. Day 1, I ask a question they don't know. No problem. It's all good. Okay. And as we go through training, like what does this represent? My tolerance for them not knowing anything. Okay. Early on, it's all good, man. It's all good. Don't worry about it. We're going to repeat it. We're going to do it again. Just ask the questions. Blah blah blah. Eventually, over the course of time, this will start tightening up, right? And then finally, over here, there's no room really for me to train you anymore. You just have to know these things, right? But that's going to come later, and they will perform at this point because they've elevated up this ladder. Because earlier, before that, it was a very wide range that I was accepting of to promote engagement and promote the reps needed for them to go up this ladder, right? What I see too much of is a lot of this. That's what it looks like. This is day 1, this is day 2, this is day 3, this is day 4, this is day 5, right? And it's the same thing, but now the environment in which they're being instructed is too narrow. And they don't feel like they can engage a lot because they don't want to be wrong. They may have questions that they don't want to ask because they don't want to be that person that should have known that. And they're like, oh man, I'm the guy that I should have known that and I don't know that. Or they feel like they're going to get reprimanded or whatever the case may be, right? And so I basically, when I go into a ground school or a briefing or anything, I assume that I need to cover a lot more than maybe even what I need to. And I tell them, I'm going to go through some things maybe with you that's basic. If it's too much and you're bored with it, let me know. We'll speed this up. but I'm not assuming anything that you know anything of anything. I'm just gonna go to the basic foundation, all right? So this, if all you did was take this with you, this would already be a very big improvement to what I see training in the industry. Because what I see a lot of is the fact that, hey, it's either